When you hear people talk about buying investment property, they tell you about all the positives. You'll hear people talk about how investing in real estate is passive income and how you can make money in your sleep. Now, there's all sorts of videos and podcasts about how great it is to invest in real estate. But does anybody ever tell you the downsides of investing in real estate? Do you really know or understand about the amount of risk that is involved? Now, let's be clear. I purchased my first investment property at the age of 21, and I've owned investment property for over the last 32 years. Now, I believe it's a great way to build wealth over time, but it's not for everyone, and it's not as easy as many people make it out to be. Now, in today's video, we're going to go over all the reasons why you shouldn't invest in real estate, and we're going to get started right now. The number one reason why you shouldn't invest in real estate is because you're not financially ready. Now, do you have 6 months of monthly expenses saved up in an emergency fund? If you lost your job and the property was vacant, do you have enough money saved up to pay both house payments? What happens if the tenant trashes the place? Do you have enough money to bring the property back to rentable condition while meeting all of your monthly obligations? For most people, the answer is no. Now, there's a few ways you can save money without investing in real estate. Now, if you own a home, are you still paying PMI? PMI stands for private mortgage insurance. Maybe you could pay off your mortgage enough to eliminate the PMI. Eliminating PMI every month would enable you to save a few extra $100 every month with little to no risk. How much money do you waste on subscriptions? I do this in my real estate business. Every so often, I do a little audit to see where my money is going. You'd be surprised at the amount of money that is wasted every month. Now, how stable is your job? If you lost your current job and you didn't have any income for the next 6 months, how bad would that hurt? Do you have a car payment? Now, this is just me, but the biggest waste of money on the planet is having a car payment. Now, do you need a car? Yes. But does it have to be new? No. If you pay interest on a car loan, and let's just say your car loan was for 5%. One way to earn 5% on your money is to pay off your car loan. Again, no risk is involved. Now, if you do have a payment, pay off your car loan, then once that car loan is paid off, use that money to start building up your reserve account or invest in your retirement accounts. What's even worse is, do you have a balance on your credit card? For example, if you carry a credit card balance, in my opinion, you have no business in buying investment real estate if you have a credit card balance. You should pay off your credit card in full every month. Now, let's say you have a credit card balance with an interest rate of, let's just say, 13%. One easy way to make 13% on your money is to simply pay off your existing credit card balance. Now, there's a rule out there called the rule of 72. And the rule works like this. Take the number 72, divide it by the interest rate that you hope to earn, and that number gives you the approximate number of years it will take for your money to double. Now, turn that around. Your credit card company is earning 13% on your credit card balance. So you take 72 divided by 13, and that means every 5.5 years, your balance is doubling. That means your credit card company is doubling their money every 5.5 years. Do yourself a favor, pay off your credit card debt. Just by paying off your credit cards, you earn 13% without any risk. However, paying off your credit cards and getting out of debt is not very exciting. Investing in real estate is sexy. Paying off your credit cards is not. Most smart things to do are simple, just not easy, and things that our grandparents put into practice. You have to have enough money saved back for repairs. When you own investment real estate, things break. If you buy an older home, most people don't plan or save enough back for when things break. When you have investment property, it almost forces you to live below your means. Anytime you have to be prepared to install a new furnace or a new AC unit. Now, I'm guilty of this one, and that is, this is more of a calculated risk, but it's still a risk. I would use the equity in my primary residence to fund my down payment for an investment property. Now, it can be done, but looking back, I should have saved that money outright. Here's another mistake, and that is if you need someone else's money to fund the down payment, then you shouldn't be in business to start with. Don't go into business with family or friends. It's tempting, but if you can't do it on your own, then you shouldn't do it. It's going to strain relationships, and I've seen families ripped apart over this. Same thing goes with loaning money. Never loan money to family or friends. It's hard. I've done it. It's going to make you mad, especially if they live in a nicer home or drive a nicer car than you do. If you loan money to family or friends, you have to understand one thing. You didn't loan them that money. You gave them a gift. Chances are you'll never see that money again. Same thing applies with friends. The only ship that doesn't sail is a partnership. If you decide to go into a partnership, have things looked at and drawn up by an attorney. Make sure everyone has enough capital to start with. Going into business or a partnership with someone who is undercapitalized is a bad business decision to begin with. Let's talk about problem number 2, and that's going to be house fever. Sometimes investors get house fever. House fever is when you have the feeling that you have to buy something or you're going to be missing out. You don't have to be in a hurry. On the flip side, the perfect home doesn't exist either. Real estate investing is a marathon and not a sprint. It's okay to keep your powder dry and wait for the right deal instead of just any deal. Understand that the perfect deal doesn't exist. I've had house fever before, and it led to a poor decision. You don't have to buy every house. It's okay to take your time. You should invest in real estate the way Warren Buffett buys a stock. Just like in baseball, you don't have to swing at every pitch. It's okay to be patient and wait for the right pitch. Sometimes not buying is better than buying the wrong home, which leads to mistake number 3, and that involves risk. Many people have the assumption that because they have more control of investing in real estate, that it somehow lowers the risk. Now, when I talk about investing, I'm talking about long-term rental properties. Some people want to make money faster by flipping. Flipping a home is a whole nother layer of risk. How long will the flip take? What repairs need to be done? What repairs require permits? What is the true cost of the repairs? How much will you actually make when you calculate your time involved? How much will you make after taxes? Sometimes it might cost you less to simply work another job and not take any risk. And then do you have the time and skills to do the flip? Sometimes the skill with flipping is knowing which home not to flip. Unfortunately, sometimes you learn things through pain and experience. Let's take a moment and talk about mistakes. There's going to come a time where you're going to make a mistake. Not every deal works out. Try not to make the same mistake twice. And if you make a mistake, learn from it and then move on. For example, one of my biggest mistakes was buying a conversion duplex. Now, what is a conversion duplex? A conversion duplex is where someone will take a single family home and convert it into 2 separate apartments. Now, there's a whole host of problems with doing this. I did this about 20 years ago, and knowing what I know now, I would have never bought that property. Buying that property was my tuition in the school of stupidity. I had house fever, so I bought something that looked better on paper than in reality. Now, number 1, do top shelf tenants really want to live in a house that was chopped into 2 apartments? It was harder to rent, and I had lower quality tenants and longer vacancy times. The house was well over 100 years old, so I had old home problems. The house was in the lead Superfund area here in Omaha, Nebraska, and being over 100 years old, it had lead-based paint. At age 35, you view the world differently than you do at age 55. Was the conversion done to code? Were permits pulled? And at the time, I was oblivious to all of this. At the time, I didn't think of these issues. I was unconsciously incompetent. I didn't know what I didn't know. When you do something stupid, sometimes you get tunnel vision, and many times stupid people are the last people or the last person to realize that they're stupid. Learn from other people. Now, this wasn't my first deal either. At the time, I had already purchased about 8 rental properties, so I thought I was a lot smarter than I actually was. And here's another dangerous position, and that is when you think you're smarter than when you actually are. Sometimes people think they're smart when actually they're just lucky. I actually bought this house before I had my real estate license. And did I have an agent? No. This one was a for sale by owner. Looking back, I wish I would have had an agent represent me. Maybe they could have saved me from years of grief and heartache. Would I have listened? Now, at the time, probably not. Would I listen now? Heck yes. At that time, I didn't feel most agents brought much value. And there's another lesson, and that is not all agents are created equal. Now let's talk about liability. Now here's the deal. In today's society, we live in a world where anything that happens to someone is someone else's fault. If you invest in real estate, it's not if you will be sued, it is when you will be sued. Make sure you carry enough insurance. Most first-time landlords don't even know what they don't know. Ignorance of the law is not an excuse. There is a lot of liability when you invest in real estate. If you're a first-time landlord, I think it is smart to hire a quality property manager. Now, some tenants out there are just waiting to find a reason to file a lawsuit. Now, this is important, but not all property managers are created equal. There are good and there are bad property managers. If you hire a property manager, you have to vet that property manager just as carefully as you would any tenant. Hiring the wrong property manager can cost you thousands. Have quality insurance. When you own investment properties, you are a business, and many landlords don't treat it like a business. Businesses take capital to run. You have to have enough capital to run your business. You're also going to need help. You need the help of a great accountant and a great tax advisor. Now let's talk about stress. Many people don't see the stress that's involved with owning rental properties. If you're married, it's going to put stress on your marriage. You will fight with your spouse over in the investment properties. Now, marriage is hard enough as it is. And then you add another layer of financial stress when you own investment properties, especially if your spouse is not 100% on board. Now, in a normal marriage, you're going to fight about three things: sex, money, and the kids. When you own investment property, you can add one more, and that is the rentals. You'll fight about, why did you buy that home? Why didn't you buy that home? You're going to fight about repairs. You're going to fight about the tenants. And you're also going to fight about whether or not, hey, we want to buy an investment property or buy a new home. So there's a lot of other stress that's involved with that. I know there are a lot of podcasts out there that make it seem all rosy and wonderful, and there's a lot of stress behind it. If your marriage is on the ropes, chances are buying investment property won't help it. You are on call 24/7. When you go on vacation, you're still on call, always in the back of your mind. When there's a storm that blows through town, you're not just worried about your primary residence, you're worried about your entire rental portfolio. And this happens all the time. You're going to drive by your rental property. You're going to have a lease that said no pets. And sure enough, you drive by and there's two giant dogs that are chained up in the front yard. You rent the home, and then 4 months later, you have to evict a tenant and the place is destroyed. And I know what people say, oh, I'll do a much better job of screening my tenants. As sure as God made green apples, eventually you're going to rent to a bad tenant. You have to own enough properties to absorb the ones that go sideways. What's kind of funny is it doesn't happen to your very first tenant. Your first tenant is going to be gold. You'll get lulled into thinking that you're much better at screening than you actually are. When there is a vacancy, your mortgage payment is still due. The way I treated my rentals is that I never enjoyed that income I made off the rentals. It went right back into the business. My question was, how many rentals could be vacant at any one time and I could still make the payment? And looking back, I was very conservative, probably a little bit too conservative. When a rental property is vacant, you have to put money back into that property to bring it back up to standard, and that's going to take cash. Should you invest in rental property? Okay, that's going to depend on you. Don't feel pressured to buy or invest, and be careful who you listen to. Some agents out there will encourage you to invest because they earn a commission off the sale. Being a landlord is not easy, and landlords are some of the most jaded people on the planet. Now, this is kind of funny. I had a tenant one time steal all of my appliances. They stole the stove, the fridge, the washer and dryer, and she destroyed this place just in a matter of a couple of months. Called the police, filed a police report, and the police showed up, and they kind of laughed it off. And then I filed a lawsuit and down at the county courthouse to try to recoup some of my money. And funny thing or not, but the Judge Mathis show called me from Chicago. They offered to fly both myself and the tenant out to Chicago, and we would each get $5,000. Now, they contacted my tenant, and she admitted to stealing all of my stuff. And so the show called me back, and they say, well, we don't really have anything for the show. So I didn't even get to go on the Judge Mathis show. And I never recouped my money either. I had another property, and this one was the conversion duplex. Now, I had a tenant take rags, stuffed them down the kitchen sink, turned on the water, and walked out the door. It totally destroyed the house. When you invest in real estate, risk is part of the equation. The bank understands that. That's why the bank requires 20% down payment. They want you to have skin in the game. There's no guarantee that you're going to make money when you invest in real estate. Does every deal go south? No. You got to do your due diligence. Keep in mind, you can decrease your risk, but you're never going to eliminate your risk entirely. Now, looking back, I probably should have bought more property. Now, some of these homes I paid $40,000, $50,000, $60,000 for, and I probably should have bought 100 of those. But at the time, that was market value. Now, I do believe in investing in real estate. However, it's not as easy as people think. It is not passive income, and you're going to earn your money. If investing in real estate was so easy, why don't you see more people doing it? Here's the deal. Investing in real estate is not a get-rich-quick process. It takes time, effort, education, and a lot of work, plain and simple.